Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Six Figure Success Club, where we are passionate about helping you grow your business and be more successful. Today we are joined by Kirsty, who is an email marketing expert, and we are going to be talking all about the importance of building an email list and nurturing it. Let's get into it. Kirsty, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, yeah, so straight in there. So my name is Kirsty. I am an email marketing expert, and I help people with their email list to sort of grow it. But more than just grow it, is just making the most of it as well. So making sure that you are utilizing the people who are on your list and giving them the experience that they need, really, I guess.
I love that. I've been really looking forward to this conversation because of all the coaches that I speak to, the 7 and 8 figure coaches, the one thing that they always kind of say when people ask them, like, if you could go back, what's the one thing you would do? And all of them say, I would start an email list earlier.
It's so true.
It's such an important conversation.
Yeah. It's so true, but you know what? People still don't do it.
They still don't listen. After they listen to this episode, everyone's going to go and start an email list.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, start it and then make the most of it.
Yeah, exactly. So why do you think that having an email list is so important?
So for me, it's really, I've got loads of reasons why I think email lists are important. It's like I have like about 10 different ones where I'm like this. But the main thing, and the thing that a lot of people will talk about, is that you own the email list that you build. So when somebody says, I'm going to go onto your email list, I would like to hear from you, we get access to their email address and we are allowed to contact them through all the GDPR and stuff like that. They've said that we can contact them, and that's quite a powerful thing because if you think about it in terms of like maybe Instagram or something, somebody can say, yeah, I would like to follow you, but you can't take that anywhere else. So if Instagram decides to go down at some point, you can't then go and try and find that person somewhere. Well, you can probably try and find them if you remember them, but we don't just have this list of people who said, yes, I'd like to follow you. We don't have that, but with your email list we do, and we can take that into different places and use it in different email providers and things like that. So we have that list. While they say that we can talk to them, we have it and we own that, and so that's quite a good asset for our business. It's something that we can work to build, and they can't take it away from us until somebody says, I don't want to hear from you anymore.
Yeah,
people can't take that away from you. So that's probably one of the main reasons why people will talk about wanting to have an email list. But the other really good one is just that it's just this unique channel that you've just got directly with your audience, with the people who want to hear from you more. And that's really fun as well, because it means that we've got this place away from social media that we can talk to each other about things that they're interested in. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. There's loads of reasons. Those
are the top two. I think it's kind of a closer relationship, I think, when you've got someone's email and you're contacting them over email, because we all follow so many people on social media that you can kind of get lost in the feed and people might not quite kind of connect with you quite as well. But when you're like right there in their inbox, they've made the decision to put you in their inbox, like they've come and got something from you and signed up to have those emails. And it's just a stronger connection between you and your kind of ideal client.
Yeah, it's very active, I think. And also it's just the way that we talk on Instagram or Facebook or something is kind of more of a broadcast kind of thing. We're talking to everybody because there's no way to actually talk to just one person really on social media, but we can sort of switch our language just a little bit when it comes to our email. So we're actually talking individually to people, even though we're doing it in bulk, we can still do that. And I think it just makes a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to the strategy of getting people into the email list, what's the best way of doing that? How are we getting people's email address?
So this is $1 million question, isn't it? It's like, how do we build this email list of people who want to be on our list? So the main thing that people do is they create something that's sort of like something for free, something really valuable, and give that away in exchange for the email address. So that's the main way that you can do it.
So I've got my example of that would be that I've got my business growth checklist. So it's 10 activities that you can do every day to grow your business. So that would be
and generally the best thing to do with that is something that's really easily digestible, and they can get on with it straight away. So like a checklist straight away, you can look through it, right? Oh, okay, right, I'm missing this part. Let me move on, and it moves your business on a little bit. So that's the best way. Something that's like a long-winded thing can kind of not work quite so well. Although I would say just test it, because everybody's audiences are different. So yeah, finding something that really fits in with the journey that your ideal client is on, because all of our businesses are helping generally people on a journey. And so I like to think about that first part, the first introduction, is that we're meeting them somewhere. We're meeting them somewhere at the beginning of their journey. And whatever we create is going to be something that will help them at that stage. And then we use our email list to sort of bring them along on that journey as well. So freebies are probably the best way, but it doesn't have to be something that you've made. It could be that you've signed up for a webinar, or like you've just signed up to their free Facebook group or something like that. Something just in exchange for giving that email address as well. As long as you're sort of saying, you can get my emails every week, then that's the main thing, really.
Yeah, brilliant. And then kind of continue to promote that free thing so that more and more people see it, and more people join your email list, so that you'll continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? Is that like oftentimes some people will put a whole lot of effort into creating the freebie, really second guessing themselves as to whether it's the right freebie. They'll get it out there, they'll put it out there, and they'll not continue to promote it. And then it's like, oh, it's not really worked. But yeah, it is one of those things you do need to keep promoting it, like each week. Send it out in your social media, try and do different things, promote it by going on podcasts and things like that. All that kind of stuff is just the momentum you need behind that freebie as well. And if it gets to a point that then you're thinking actually still not working, I put a lot of work into it, then you might need to like tweak it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, change the actual freebie itself. But until
or maybe just messaging around it. Sometimes it's just that.
Yeah, but until you've promoted it enough, you won't know whether it's the freebie or the messaging. Like, you need to get it out there so you can test whether or not it's resonating.
Yeah, you really do. And that's hard. There's one of those hard things that it's like, it feels relentless, but it is just, the reason why you're doing it is, this is why you've got to go back to the reason why, you want to have your email list, is because it's something really good for your business, and because you can have this extra channel, and there's all these other good reasons. So yeah, just bearing that in mind when it's a hard slog sometimes to get it out there. But I mean, once you get it going, once you've got something that that works, that's when you can start to maybe put some money behind it, put some like adverts and stuff, because that it works. So the hard work at the beginning hopefully will pay off a little bit further down the line as well.
Absolutely. And it just becomes one of those things that you kind of need to continually do in your business. It's like lead generation. It doesn't go away. It never stops needing to be done. And it just needs to be something that gets added into kind of your content strategy. Like, where am I sharing my lead magnet this week? How many times am I sharing it? Is the messaging working? And just make sure that it's a kind of a continual thing that you're doing when you're working on your business. Yeah,
definitely. And like I say, I think sometimes that we think in business that like one day it'll just magically work. One day we'll just have it all magically. I kind of think this. Maybe I'm just still in delusion world. But I sort of think that one day it'll be fine and I will just get it all right. But I think it's just one of those. Actually, what it is we just have to carry on working at it all the time.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So we've talked about getting people onto the email list and the various ways that you can do that. But I think the big thing that a lot of business owners struggle with is, okay, what do I do with them now that they're on my list? Like, when should I be emailing them? What am I emailing them about? Can you kind of talk through what you work with your clients on, and how you kind of approach that question?
Yeah, sure. So there's two different sort of emails that you're going to be sending to people once they get on your list. So the first one is the sort of automated emails that you can do. And I would really encourage anybody. I've seen like a few people say that, they're not really into automated emails and welcome sequences anymore, but they've got a really good place in an email marketing strategy. And that's by just introducing yourself to the person. So an automated sequence, generally once they sign up, they'll get an email say, welcome to my list, here's your freebie. And then what I sort of suggest people to do is maybe have 4 or 5 extra emails after that, and they'll come in every day, and they're just sort of helping. Maybe they're expanding a little bit on what's in the freebie. Maybe they're just introducing ourselves and helping with a few tips or something like that, something where we can give some value to that person, and so that they also start to get to know us, because that's really important, that we start to build this connection with them, that we've got a relationship with them, and they know that we're helpful to them. And also that they can start to recognize us in their inbox, because that first stage where they remember who we are and why they signed up, that's really important, just to cement that relationship and say, this is who I am, this is what I look like in your inbox, look out for me in the future. So that's the first thing that I would suggest anybody should do, is to create sort of a welcome sequence that just sort of introduces you to them. And the best thing about that is that once it's set up, you don't need to think about it. They just get that automatically, and then they'll seamlessly go into your regular emails that you'll write, which is the second kind. And the second kind, the campaign emails or regular emails, whatever you want to call them, those are the ones that people do get a bit hung up on, because it's another one of those things. It's something that's relentless. You've got to do it every week. You've got to decide what you're going to write, and it has to work, and all this kind of stuff. So those campaign emails, what I would say to people would be to pick a sort of cadence that you want to do. So I like to do weekly. I think weekly is really good. And then start to have a think about, how do I help this person? Sorry, excuse me, I'm going to have to get a drink of water. It's too early for me to talk. Yeah, so think about the journey that we were saying about the ideal client that we have and how we help them along there. So we start at a certain point, and then we help them along with certain topics and things that they've got problems with, and then the outcome is hopefully that they'll work with us, and we'll help them further along with that. So those topics that you're going to talk about in your emails every week, think about like that journey that they're on, and what we're going to help them with, and how can we do that. And then there's just thinking about whether you're going to have a story-based email or whether they're going to be just tips, or that, and that might depend really on your business and what you've got to offer, because everybody's going to be different. But I always like to just come back to what would that ideal reader value? What would they want to hear all the time? And if they're going to want to hear sales pitches every week, it's probably unlikely. So just step yourself back, put yourself in their shoes, and think, right, okay, what would be helpful for them, and how can I build trust with them, and how can I get them to know me a bit more.
And also look at the emails that you like receiving as well, because most of us are a version of our ideal client, right? So look at the emails that you like getting from the people that you've signed up with. So I know my favorite, some of the email lists that I'm in, and the ones that I kind of model mine off of, are that they'll do 2 emails a week, and one of those is like a teaching, helping you with something email, and the next one is like a rundown of what they've done that week and what's going on in their business. And it gives you that mixture between getting to know the person and learning from them as well, and it's a nice balance between the two.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like you said, I speak to a lot of people who really struggle with the idea of getting out there and putting themselves in the inbox of somebody, because they don't want to be that, I don't know if they think they're going to be spammy or something, but they don't want to be that person. So it's really important that we sort of think, right, okay, how do I like to receive emails? Because we can all sign up for these lists that will send like 10 a day, and we're like, okay, right, that's not right. But use that as a learning opportunity, and decide, right, okay, well, that's not what I'm going to do. If I don't like that, my ideal client's probably not going to like that. So I'm going to do this and this kind of email, and just take a mental note each time that something comes in, and like, oh, I like that one. I've got a little folder in my email that anytime I get something that I really like, I put it in there, and this like subject lines, or just a good email that I think, oh, I really like the way that they've done this. I keep them to one side so that I've got that to draw on, and it's just a bit of inspiration sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great idea, taking note of what you're receiving and taking inspiration from it, so that you can then serve your clients better. So when you're so let's say we've picked a cadence, so we've done our welcome sequence, and now we've moved into kind of the weekly nurturing emails. How do we go about creating a strategy of what they're going to look like? Do we map out emails for the next 6 months or the next month, or what's the best way, do you think, of managing the emails that are going out?
Okay, so I like to do it in a 3-month sort of session. How I work with my clients is that I'll do a 12-week planning session, and we can get like emails planned out for 12 weeks, which is kind of nice. It's a quarter. It's not too far away that we don't really know what's going on in our business. And the important thing I think to remember when you're planning out these emails, although I do say, keep that ideal reader in mind first, and I always like to think about them first. The second thing to think about really is that it's a business activity, so it has to support our business. So the first thing I would say is like pick a sort of timeline that you're going to plan out. A month can work, but I like to sort of do 12 weeks. I think 12 weeks is good. It gives us enough to think about and remind ourselves what we've got going on in our business. And then sort of look and think, what do I have to sell in this time? Have I got anything major coming up that I need to be leading them into? So say you've got a product that you're starting to launch, or a service that you're going to start doing at a certain time. So at the moment we're in the summer holidays when we're recording this, so a lot of people might be thinking, right, okay, I'm going to be doing something after the summer holidays. So you would have that written down in your plan. Okay, right, that's coming out then. And then once it's in your plan, you can look sort of backwards and think, right, how do I lead them up into that? What do I need to help them along to get to that point that they're ready for this? So sometimes it's about just nurturing them with the idea of, okay, the problems that they might have and how that you might be able to help them with, but really sort of like plugging in the bits that are important to you in your business, and then working back from that and around that is how I do it. I like to just go for like the topic ideas, and I plan them out for the 12 weeks rather than writing them in advance. But that's just me. Everybody's slightly different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 12 weeks is a great time frame for doing it. I think doing things in quarters I think it works well in our brains. It's not too long, it's not too short, so you can kind of set them and they're done for a nice period of time. And yeah, like you said, mapping out what you're doing in your business over those 12 weeks so that you know that the emails that you're sending out are related to what you're doing in your business, and they're not just kind of random topics about nothing that's related to what's currently happening in the business, I think is really key.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it is a business activity. We have to try and get into that mindset of, it's not just another thing that I have to just tick off my list every week. We want it to move our business forward. And most of us have a kind of plan sort of for the next 3 months, I think. So it is a good way to sort of do that. And yeah, if you're just in that sort of world where you're doing that bit of strategy around your business, then you've probably got a little bit of an idea. And the other thing that I like to, so in 3 months worth, sometimes there's like personal things that are going on that we know about. Maybe I had somebody who was doing a plan for, and they were planning to run the marathon and things like that. And you can plot things like that into your emails as well, and it brings that personality in, because you know what you're going to be doing probably in the next 3 months. You can kind of figure things out. Okay, I've got a big birthday coming up, or this, that, and the next thing, or things that your clients might have as well. So if they're, again, we're in the summer holidays, if you're in like a parenting niche, that kind of thing, you can plot that in and think, okay, right, I need to be talking about this now, or I need to be talking about Halloween now, because you've got kids in your parents in your niche or something like that. You can start to plot that in, and actually once you do that, especially with a 12-week period, because 12 weeks actually isn't that many, you can start to really sort of fill in the gaps, and you're like, okay, that pretty much covers it. I've only got a couple extra to do, and then you just need to try and find something that sort of fits and flows in with that.
It's a great way of breaking it down so that it feels a lot less daunting. Because if you kind of think of, we just sat here now and we're like, I need to write 3 months worth of emails, like what on earth? But when you break it down like that, like look at what you're actually doing over the next 3 months, both in your business and outside of your business, and then use those to kind of frame the emails for those weeks, it becomes a lot less daunting, and then you've just got those gaps to fill in, like you said.
Yeah, and it's it's a, sometimes I do it and I look at it, I'm like, actually that still doesn't work right when I get to that week, and but that's why I don't really do the whole writing them in advance, but I just like to have the topics. So the thing that I like to do when I write down my plans and how I do it with my clients are, I'll create sort of like the topic idea, and I'll have any notes of anything that's going on, and then for each email, what I like to do is I think, okay, right, what's the intention for the reader? What's the reader going to get out of this? And I always try and sort of lead with that, because again, the reader is the most important person in this. They're the ones that I want to make sure that they're getting something from each email. So I always start with the intention for them. And then I go back and I'm like, okay, what's my intention for my business for this? What am I doing? Why am I sending this email? And making sure there's something there for me. And it might not be that I'm selling a product. It might not be as much as that. It might just be, I'm building some trust because I've got something coming up that I want to make sure I'm building this know, like, and trust factor for. So it could be just something like that. And then the final thing when I'm sort of doing my plan is I think, right, okay, what am I going to measure when I've written this email? Like, am I going to ask them to click on something? Am I going to ask them to reply to me? And I try and have like a little sort of like three things that each email is going to have. So an intention for them, an intention for me, and a goal to measure as well. So
I love that. Speaking of goals and measuring, what should we be measuring when it comes to how effective our emails are, do you think?
Okay, so it's a little bit tricky at the moment because there was a bit of a change. I can't remember when it came in, but Apple, I think it's Apple Mail, have this change at the moment where so if you're sending an email to somebody and they've got their email set up on Apple, it will open it up automatically and shows that it's opened up automatically in your system. So you'll be like, oh yeah, I've got great open rate. But actually it doesn't really, it's not quite as accurate anymore. So open rate is probably the one that most people look at because we want people to open our emails generally. So open rate is a good one, but it's not accurate anymore. However, it's what we have. So I kind of feel like, if we're sort of measuring it week on week and against ourselves, then we can kind of get a good idea of who's opening and who's not. And if you're sort of thinking, oh, I don't know if I've got a lot of people who are just on that sort of Apple thing, what you can do is, so as soon as you've sent that email, if you look at your stats sort of almost straight away, it will sort of let you know who's opened it straight away. So you'll see, oh, okay, 20 people have opened it straight away. Okay, maybe they've not actually opened it. Maybe they're part of this, but it's not accurate, but you can kind of get a little bit of an idea there as well. So open rate is one good one. I think the average open rate I was reading was around about 20%, but I think that's kind of, it's based on a lot of different industries. So it's not quite, it goes over a lot of different kinds of industries where people, so that's not actually a high percentage. A lot of people get really worried when they're starting to send emails and they're like, well, nobody's opening them because, they must be going to spam, all this kind of stuff. But actually open rate generally tends to be quite low anyway. I would say sort of around about 40% is kind of a good, 30 to 40% is kind of a good open rate to be sort of aiming for. But again, it's going to depend on your industry.
Yeah.
So open rate is probably the first one people will look at. A click-through rate is also good. So you can see how many.
That's where someone's gone into your email and they've clicked on a link that was in the email.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, my phone's just ringing. My phone never rings, and it's just rung today. Yeah. So so if you've got a link in your email, if you want them to go and click something, that's when you can start to think, okay, well, I can measure that. But the thing I'd say with that is, just remember that not always going to be asking people to click on your emails. So don't worry if it's not like you're looking at like, oh, my click-through rate was really rubbish then. Quite often I don't ask people to click. Sometimes I ask people to reply to me and things like that in my emails. So so sometimes my click-through rate is not particularly great. And it depends sort of basically what your goals are for your email list there. So that click-through rate is again, there's it's not accurate. It's not hugely accurate. There's on a couple of my email lists, so in my travel blogs that I've got email lists for, I'll send out emails and I'll get somebody who clicks on every single thing. And I'm like, that can't be right. Like, why are they doing this? But it must be something to do with their email system. So it's just something to bear in mind that the technology around all of this can make things a little bit squiffy.
Yeah, I definitely learned something this week about. So I use Google Workspace and Kartra to manage my email list. And I didn't realize that you have to authenticate your email domain within both of those to ensure that it goes to the right place in people's inboxes. Yeah. So it's just whatever technology that you're using to manage your email list, make sure that you've kind of read the user manual and you know that you've done all of the things so that you're going to get the maximum impact. Because if you're putting the effort in to this email strategy, but all of your emails are going to spam because you haven't authenticated in Google Workspace, for example, then it's a real waste of your effort and it's a real shame because your strategy might be amazing, but if no one's seeing those emails, then it's not worth the time that you're putting in.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
little things like that, and just being aware of, especially for people not like you who aren't experts in it, we don't know these things, and it's just good to be aware of them. And I've got a couple of friends that are on my email list that let me know that it was always going to their spam, so that was how I was made aware of that and could fix that. So doing little things like that, like putting yourself in your own email list, is usually a good idea, so that you get the emails that are going out, so you can see what
I
they
have
look like
myself
and where
about
they're
3
going.
times in my email list to different things. But actually, this is quite good, because I have one that goes to like a Gmail account. I have one that goes to sort of my work account, which goes into a slightly different inbox. I can kind of see what it looks like from different places as well. But sometimes if they end up in spam, I'm like, oh, okay, why? I'm like, let's kind of not, it's not spam. Let's mark it not a spam straight away. And sometimes these things happen. But yeah, the domain authentication has been something that's been again brought in this year, which is, it's tripped a lot of people up, and because it's not like something you just tick a box somewhere. It's a little bit more techy than all that, and it was just a really hard thing when it came in. And it's not every single email provider is different. So like your instructions for Kartra are going to be different to my instructions that I was using when I'm using MailerLite. They're all slightly different, and they're slightly different because of who your domain is registered, all these things. And it starts to get techy, and people go, oh my goodness. And what I've heard from people is, and people will say to me, it's like, oh, okay, I was going to do it through MailerLite, but I've heard that it's really, really bad. And, you can't, they're not doing the domain authentication. I'm going to go through this company instead. And I'm just like, it's going to be the same for each of them. And the reason why it's the same is, the reason why they're doing this and why they changed it is to stop people getting like the free email accounts, like a Gmail account, and using that to spam people with. So that's why they've sort of clamped down on it. So, but that's a good thing that they've done, because what we want from our email providers is we want to have that deliverability, and they need to be aware of who's in their company using their software to do that. So it's kind of all interlinked. But if the company that you're using happily allows you to not authenticate your domain, then their deliverability, which I still can't say, might be not so good anyway. So, we do really want to get into this. And while it's a pain in the butt to get it done, once it's done, generally, you don't need to do it again. I changed my hosting for my website, and I had to do it again. But I'd done it once, so it wasn't hard. But generally, you won't have to do it again. So
and it's just one of those things that when you set up any new tool in your business, there are going to be steps that you have to go through to make sure that it's working most effectively. And this is just one of those things. Like, you pick the email provider that you want to use, you make sure that it's set up correctly and authentication is done, and then you can start kind of using it to collect your emails and send out your emails.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, it's, at the end of the day, we would want to get to a point that we're sending out lots of emails to lots of people. We want it to work well. We want us to have this trust within people's email inboxes as well, because if we don't have that trust, then, like, domains can get blacklisted, and then you're always going to go into spam, and there's all these things that can happen. So we want to make sure it's all done right. And at the end of the day, if you think about it from that sort of reader's perspective, we don't just want anybody coming in. You've got phones going off as well, both of us today. We don't just want anybody coming into our inbox. We want the right people coming in, and so that's, it's all part of the big picture. Do what we would like to have happen to ourselves, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. Okay, so let's just kind of recap what we've talked about. So we're mapping out our content for emails for 12 weeks. That seems to be a good measure of time to do it for. Get clear on why you starting an email list. You should start an email list. You absolutely should. But why do you, as the business owner, want the email list? What is it that you want to get out of it? And for most of us, it will be to nurture an audience and hopefully turn them into paying clients. And then that should feed into the strategy that you're building for those 12 weeks of what am I doing in my business and what emails do I need to be sending, so that people know what's happening in the business and what I'm offering and how I can help them. I think that becomes an easier way of looking at something that can otherwise feel like a big chore. Like, what is it that you're giving to the people in your email list that will eventually turn them into ideal clients.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, when you sort of like talk about it in that way, it's like there's a real strategy behind why you're actually turning up and showing up for the people in your inbox as well. So again, yeah, these people want to hear from you. So that's something as well, just to sort of step back and think, okay, they've actually signed up for something from me, ticked box to say they want to hear from me. So yeah, let's show up and give them what they need, and yeah, and I can help them with something. So let's just do that.
Yeah, and you talked about the nurture sequence that people get to begin with, where they get to know you, and some people feeling like it's not useful anymore. But actually, that first sort of week, couple of days or week when somebody's originally signed up for your email list, that is when your lead is the hottest, because they found something that you are offering that they want and they've opted in for it. So the more of their attention that you can capture as quickly as possible, the more likely they are to kind of engage more with what you're putting out. Whereas if you kind of leave them to it and then eventually start sending them emails, they're going to have forgotten what they originally signed up for, and they'll have lost interest, and that lead, it does become colder. Like, it doesn't mean that it's never going to turn back around again, but if you can capture their attention immediately, then it's going to make the most out of the effort that you're putting in.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this a lot in my own email list at the moment. So when people sign up for my free Facebook group, they can put their email address down, and I can put them into my email list. And I switched off for a little while my nurture sequence from the people from the Facebook group, and I thought, I'll just see how it goes. And I'm going to put it back on again, because I just think it's like you say, that they're the hottest right then. That's when they need to get to know me. It seems daft for them just to then just get thrown straight into this, whatever the random email might be that they get first. It just doesn't work so well. So yeah, that's a little thing that I've been testing within my own email list, because yeah, lots of people were saying, I don't like these nurture sequences anymore. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try, because I think that's the main thing with email marketing as well, is that we should test everything with our own audiences. And definitely for me as well, I feel like it's just missing that piece where they can get to know you and know what you've got to offer as well. So like you said, they're at their hottest then.
And one thing I like to do when I'm doing like my 12-week planning in the business is to go back and revisit all of the email sequences that I've got that are set up, to make sure that they're still up to date. Like, because some of them you might have set when you originally set up your business, and it's the same ones that you've been using since then. But obviously we change as people, our businesses change. So regularly reviewing those nurture sequences that are going out will keep them kind of fresh and offering the most value to your clients. So I would definitely add that into your quarterly planning that you're doing within the business.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. And even just sort of going through and just checking how many forms you've got that people can sign up for, and checking where they are, or even just start looking at, okay, which ones were the most, it's a good time to sort of look through and say which ones were the most, where did people come from the most, depending on who you use and how you've got everything set up. You can find out, did they come from this social media platform, all this kind of stuff. There's loads of stuff that you can check, but yeah, that quarterly sort of looking through and going back and thinking, right, okay, I don't need that one anymore. Let's archive that one.
Yeah, for sure, because we don't want to be putting any effort in if we're not getting a return on it. Like, we want to test everything, test lots of different things, so that we can find out what's not working. And if it's not working, stop doing it, because there's no point in, all of us as business owners have got a limited time. We don't want to spend 24/7 working on our businesses. So we need to be really clever about the time that we are spending on working in our business. So if something's
our energy as well is just, especially if we're feeling like things aren't working, like all this like negative energy from it. So we need to just clear that out and then start fresh, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's not working, stop doing it. And this always comes back to people feeling like, but if I stop doing it, that means I failed, which it absolutely does not mean. Like, not everything that you do is going to work in your business. It's just your ideal clients are different to other people's. The way that you work is different to other people. And finding what suits you and your audience is the key to business success. So if you try something that's not working, brilliant. Well done for trying. Let's bin that and try the next thing and put more effort into the things that are bringing in more clients.
Yeah, it's so important, and you bring up something really important there about our email list and our audience. There isn't a one size fits all for it. There really is, and I'd love to say that there was. I'd love
So
to
much
be
easier.
the person who's sort of like, here I have this like one template, like bang 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 bang, and you're gonna get all this amazing results. But I'm not a big fan of templates and things like that. So because I think the most important thing is that we start to learn about our audience. That's a business thing, isn't it? It's not even just an email marketing thing. That's our whole entire business is about getting to know our ideal client and responding to them. And I think emails, that's how I approach email marketing as well, because and sometimes that just takes some time. Like I was saying, I'm testing things all the time as well with mine, and we just have to sort of give it a go and see what works and see what feels good as well. It doesn't even have to be that it works. It's like sometimes you can put something out and you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I like that, but somebody told me to do it, and then you're like, oh, it didn't work anyway, right? Let's scrap that. Let's not do it again. And it's just figuring it out for yourself and for your audience, and you only know that by trying as well, actually. So
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned when you're planning out your emails that you pick the topics for the 12 weeks, so you know what you're going to be talking about. But I'd love to just dive into when it actually gets time to writing the body of the email. Is there a flow that you follow? Do all of the emails kind of look and feel the same, but the content is different? How do you kind of approach actually writing the email? What needs to be in them?
So for me, it depends. It's going to depend on your audience and how you decide that you're going to do it. So I have, for my emails, to my email for this business, this email marketing business, I have a Monday email where I have like a quick tip for everybody. It's just sort of like to set everybody up for the start of the week with a quick tip. And then I have a Wednesday email that's a little bit longer. We go into a little bit of a longer talk about a topic. So that's my two sort of kinds of emails that I have.
And is that the same topic? So it's a quick tip on Monday and a longer.
Yeah, so just a quick tip about anything, and then a longer topic on the Wednesday. I'm again changing some stuff up, trying some different things out. I want to try and do a bit more storytelling in my emails and things like that, which is not my not my I'm not the best at. So I'm just learning myself to do things with some of my travel blogs. Those would have like the same format each week. Like I would say, this is what we're talking about this week. Here's like a tip about this place, and I would talk about that. So it depends really on your audience what that flow would look like for you. But I would just say, think about what it is that you want to be getting across. So if it's a teaching email, like, make sure you've got all those points in there. If it's an inspirational email about, it might be more storytelling, just make sure that you've got a point to that email that's going to come through. But yeah, I don't really have a flow. I'm just basically just a writer. I just sort of like think, right, okay, what do they want to get out of this email? Right, they want to get this. Let's write it. So yeah, no, I don't really have.
That's fair.
Again, it depends on your audience, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and what works for you. And so when you've done your 12-week content plan, for the subject line, etc. How far in advance are you actually writing the body of the email?
So I tend to write mine. I have a day on a Monday that I write them out to go out for the Wednesday and the following Monday. Generally what I'll do is I'll write them and then I'll come back to them the day before they're due to go and I'll just reread them. Because I quite like to like be on top of it with like how I'm feeling, if that makes sense. So if it's like, I don't like to have it written too far in advance because sometimes things change and it doesn't feel quite right. So I just like to come back at it with a fresh pair of eyes the day before, and then I'll schedule it from there.
I like that. And I think that's a great approach. I think what I like to do is write the email out whenever I can and get as many written as I can. And then I do similar to you and I'll come back and revisit it before it actually goes out to make sure that I'm still happy with it. But at least I know that if it's written ahead of time, I deal with a lot of chronic pain issues. So if I'm on a day where I really don't feel like I can do anything, at least I know I've got my email that's going out and it's prepared ahead of time and I don't have to rely on my energy levels being high enough to be able to go and write an entire email. Instead, I've got the email that's already been written and I just need to tweak it, which uses a lot less brain power, which I'm
exactly
aware of.
Yeah, so we have to figure out what's good for us. and work with what's good for us. Yeah, for sure. I'd love. What I'd like to get to the point is like do my sort of like my quick ones and get all those ones sort of like planned out and plugged in for a little bit further in advance. But I'm just not very good at doing things in advance.
That's fair. Whereas I'm all about organisation and getting everything scheduled ahead of time, so this works better for me. But I think that's a really good point, that you and I are doing the same sort of thing. We both have an email list that we're nurturing, but we approach it in completely different ways because that's what works for us and for our business and for our ideal client.
Yeah, I mean, and how many times do we try and do some of different things and we're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this because somebody else said that's the way they do it, and you're like, it just doesn't work for me. So yeah, sometimes you just need to sort of listen to yourself and say, right, this is how it's going to work for me, and I'm going to do, just how it works for me. And that can change as well. We can be quite fluid with it, can't we? So
yeah, and also I think it's good to remember that something that you did last quarter that was working might not necessarily work this quarter. And again, it's just being aware of the fact that that's perfectly okay. It's a very real thing that happens in business, that your ideal client's tastes change, or what you're doing in your business has changed. So what you were doing previously isn't the same as what you need to be doing now. And to embrace that and be okay with it, and that it's okay to do something differently just because it's not the same thing that you did before.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like that sort of quarterly review of everything is quite important as well, because then you can sort of think, right, if it hasn't changed, if it has changed a little bit, has my ideal client taste changed? How have they changed? Is it because I've signed up different people? Is it, is that because I've put some effort into grow in a different place, and maybe it's brought different people in? And again, you don't always have to do anything about it, but having that awareness is really good.
Yeah, for sure. Brilliant. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot. I think anyone that's listening now should have a good grasp on how to go and grow their email list. Is there anything to do with email marketing that you think that we haven't covered that people should be aware of?
Let me have a think. One of the things that I really love about email marketing, so when we said at the beginning, like there was all these reasons to have it, one of the things that I love is the ability to collect some data from our ideal clients and to have that in our email list and to work with that. And I think that's really interesting and important thing to be doing. So if you've got sort of in your nurture sequence or something like that, that's a really great way to try and sort of learn something about your ideal client. So I would say if you can, try and bring that in. So maybe ask them a question, get them to click on a link about what maybe level of business they're at, or like what age their children are, whatever it is with your audience that you're trying to figure out. When they're in that nurture sequence, it's quite they're quite engaged. They're opening up the emails way more than everybody else does. They click on things way more. So it's a really good time to sort of start to learn about them as well as them learning about you. And you can start to sort of build up a really nice bit of data about your audience as well. So
I like that. Yeah, getting information from, not just kind of broadcasting information to them, but asking them questions and getting them to respond to those kind of nurture emails that you're sending out.
Yeah, so like one of the things that I did with my in my travel blog emails was because people would sign up at any time. I don't know when they're traveling, or like, are they just thinking about it? Are they actually booked? Things like that. So the first things that I would do in like my nurture emails would say, when are you planning to go? And there'd be like this list of, this quarter, this quarter, this quarter, and they'd click on it. And then I'd start to sort of get a bit of data about, okay, well, when they're signing up, they're this far out from a trip, or maybe they're not, or and you can do that for anything. You can say, okay, for you can say, what stage of business are you? Are you just starting out, or have you been in business for a little while and you need help, or are you very established, blah blah, and you can just get them to click on it. And I also think if we're quite honest to them about it, the reason why we're doing it, we just say, we want to make sure that we're providing the right information for you. If you can like click on this, it really would help me, then people will do it. I think when we ask people to just do things with honesty and we're not trying to trick them for anything, then you can get anything from them really that you need. So let's go for it, and let's sort of co-create this kind of nice relationship in this channel with them. So yeah, data is a really good one to just sort of think about, what do I need to know from my list, and think about ways that you can find that out.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really good use of the effort that you're putting into the email list. Like, use it as a tool to not only serve your clients, but to have them also serve you as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work. Or we can try, but you know, like, yeah. And I guess to sort of end on that is the testing things. You know,
Yeah.
you just always need to test with email marketing. It isn't something that you're going to pick up one day and run with it and it's going to be perfect. You're always going to be testing with your audience, but it is such a powerful tool that it's really worth putting the time and effort into it.
I love that. What a sentence to end on. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so useful.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. My 3 key takeaways from today would be to, if you haven't already, start an email list. It is the one thing that really successful service providers always say that they wish they'd started doing sooner. So if you haven't got one yet, look into getting one started. The second takeaway would be to create a strategy around your email list so that you are making the most of it and getting the most out of it. So what do you want the email list to do? Set some goals around it and then build yourself a 12-week strategy of what's going to happen in that email list over those 12 weeks. How are you going to serve your clients via those emails, and what emails are you going to be sending out? And then the third takeaway would be to try things out, test things, do different things, especially if it's new for you or if it's not working as well as you'd hoped it would. Try something different and send out different types of emails on different days with different topics so that you can figure out what works for your audience and what they resonate with. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time.